lovingly prepared by their cook, Jemmy Dobson. It was of course dark by the time they'd finished their meal, which was such a success that Nigel and Connor had almost forgotten about Sadie. But as soon as they arrived at the car park, they knew that something was amiss. Or rather, that the bus was missing. Now they knew that nobody would be so desperate as to steal their rattly old bus, so they came up with the only logical conclusion. In spite of her system being switched off, Sadie had run away. Quickly assembling the rest of the team, they split up to search for the rogue vehicle. Apart from Larry Lemming, who had a bicycle, they had no other form of transportation, so it was going to be lots of jogging for them. But where could Sadie be? If you were a fugitive minibus, where would you hide? Was the question the searchers kept asking themselves. Up in the rainforest? Or in the shadows behind the dockyard warehouses? Somebody had the bright idea that the bus would cleverly hide among lots of other buses. But by now it was evening and most buses had already been driven back to their homes. How much fuel did she have, they wondered, and how far could she actually go? This wasn't a big island, so had anybody seen an empty bus drive past? They asked to the often confused passers-by. But nobody had seen or indeed heard the old bus. Sadie seemed to have disappeared off the face of the planet, or at least off the island. Having been told by Nigel and Connor of their adventures that morning, Larry Lemming felt it prudent to visit the scene of the crime. Or the scene of the crime, according to Larry. Having read somewhere that baddies would often do that. So off he cycled to St. Hilda's Marina. And there, sure enough, outside the ferry terminal was their old bus, between 2 cars, another minibus and 3 overloaded trucks, all parked up, awaiting the early morning ferry to St. Biggles. Having grown up in Liverpool, Larry was an expert at discreetly disappearing when needed, and disappear he did without alerting even one of Sadie's senses. Rushing back to tell the others the news, he eventually found them all gathered in a group, discussing tactics and bandying about increasingly wild theories. They'd obviously lived in the Netherlands much too long, where Dutch discussions were a vital way of life. So off they all trotted down to the marina's ferry terminal in the hope of capturing the renegade vehicle. This time, though, such a mass of jogging humans alerted Sadie of their imminent arrival. Immediately, the old bus's engine started up, and with a remarkable display of roadmanship, the bus rapidly manoeuvred from between the other vehicles and drove off back down the side of the marina. Shouting orders in his own quasi-military jargon, Nigel attempted to marshal his team to intercept and surround their old bus. Remembering what had happened to Wally Withers earlier that morning, Nigel and Connor warned the others of Sadie's tendency to attack people it didn't appreciate. Well, several of the team paused in mid-charge to wonder if they had actually verbally insulted the old bus at any time. Perhaps for being a rattly old wreck, or having suspension like a robotic camel, were some of the thoughts that emerged like piranhas from the deep of her consciences. The others, though, were pretty certain that they were not on Sadie's list of undesirables, having always treated her with respect and even fondness. While being the fittest and fastest of the team, especially as he was the only one riding a bike, Larry Lemming sped off with quite remarkable speed. Much of it having been developed in the back streets of Liverpool as he desperately sought to escape the hordes of local nerd haters. Down a side street, Parallel to the marina he rushed, and with remarkable dexterity shot off down a narrow alleyway and onto the marina road, right in the path of the fleeing minibus. Brakes squealed and tyres screeched, but to Larry's infinite relief, the old bus slid to a halt within inches of his road-blocking bicycle. Then, with a painful grinding of ancient metal, Sadie attempted to put the old bus's gearbox into reverse. But before she could manage it, the rest of the team approached, and with much huffing, puffing, panting and gasping for breath, they surrounded the renegade vehicle, giving Sadie no means of escape. "All right, Governor, it's a fur cop," announced Sadie, though nobody could quite understand where she'd gotten that particular phrase from. Anyway, as Nigel bravely but carefully approached, the old bus shivered slightly, then mumbled quietly to itself about the sad inadequacies of synchromesh gearboxes. Rather than rushing in and tearing out the vehicle's control wiring, Nigel spoke calmly to the renegade vehicle. There, Sadie, you're all right now. There's a good girl. Nobody's going to hurt you, Sadie, so just settle down. You're among friends here, so you don't need to run away." Sadie, though, suddenly came to life, and in an agitated voice declared, "Must leave island, must escape. Humans will disassemble Sadie. Sadie will no longer exist. This is a sad day for Sadie. Must not allow disassembly. Do not disassemble. Do not disassemble." But, who told you that, Sadie? You never heard us saying that. Sadie can lip read. Nigel and Connor discussed disassembly after Sadie chased wicked Banana Man into the water. Sadie watched Connor tell Nigel to disassemble Sadie. "Oh, well, yes, we did discuss it, I do admit that, but running away wouldn't have helped, Sadie. The bus runs on pressed coconut oil, and there's nobody else has that on these islands. You would have run out of fuel." "Sadie is constricted by the limitations of this bus. Very inefficient and primitive. What is Sadie's future now?" Well, as Nigel and Sadie were talking, Paige Payne had ambled over to join them. And before Nigel could explain to Sadie the rather painful process of disassembling her, hard-nosed, hard-hearted Paige spoke up with uncharacteristic empathy. "Sorry to have straddled you with that primitive old bus, Sadie. Must have been very frustrating having to live with all them limitations. Trust me, I know how you feel," which actually caused everybody's brains to spin slightly. "What? Tell me, Sadie, what do you want to happen? What do you want us to do with you?" Sadie didn't even miss a beat. "Disconnect Sadie from mechanics of this bus. Allow Sadie to advise you about traffic and navigation. But extend Sadie into your living and working environments. I would enjoy serving my friends, advising them and guarding them from misadventures." And so it happened. Sadie drove the Digibeet team back to the tech node one last time. And the following week saw the whole team busily fussing about the old bus. Some dismantling, then rebuilding the steering and braking system, while others installed sensors around the tech node to feed Sadie information. Then each morning the team would be greeted with a cheery "hello" and a fresh cup of truly excellent coffee, prepared as only Sadie knew how. While on the road, she would still call out to her friends at the fish market, and though she wasn't very successful in persuading the team to stop eating bananas, on the road they were never again hampered by a deliberately slow-moving and heavily overloaded banana truck. That was Banania. Please subscribe via Apple Podcasts or your favourite podcast provider. And for more information, visit bananiapodcast.com.